Rolling.
Welcome back to the Get Louder podcast. We have a special guest.
Yes, we do.
At Wall Street, Amazon, Barnes & Noble,
Bestseller.
real estate investor,
That's right.
Dre Evans.
Dre Evans in the house, everybody. What's up, Dre? How you doing, man?
What's going on,
Yes,
bro?
sir. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, the Get Louder podcast. How you feeling, Dre?
Man, loud indeed. He came in with the fuck.
Sometimes the mic blows up.
I wasn't expecting that. Usually, you know, people come in all smooth and stuff.
Especially right beforehand. He's like, wow! But they don't see that part. They don't see the meditation right before.
Man, so Wall Street Journal bestseller. We got his book right now, the Prove Them Wrong. And this is actually a big book. Normally,
like literally, like physically.
Yeah.
Physically, a big book. How many pages is this?
It's like 400 something.
437 pages. Wow.
Man,
What's up?
so real quick, tell us, man, how did you get into writing books? How did you get into writing this book? What's this book about? Prove Them Wrong?
Oh, man. My writing journey stems back to high school. My mom, she was an author. She wrote like a marriage Christian book, but she never really published it like that. So, you know, you grow up and everybody's got like a thing for math or like maybe science.
Right.
For me, I would flunk everything else, but like writing in English, like I always do well on.
Yeah.
And so my teachers started to notice that they were always kind of like push it and say it to me. I kept brushing it off. And one day, man, so I was a former gang member in Chicago. We could touch into that later if y'all want to. But eventually I started doing a lot of outreach to kids and to prisons, and everybody was like, you should write a book, you should write a book. And you know, I kept brushing it off again and again. I got into an almost fatal car crash. Somebody had to pull me out my Hellcat. And the next day I started writing.
Wow.
And I was like, man, I gotta give back to the world, put my journey out there. Started writing every single day. I wrote the book in a year. And then from there, I took a break after editing and doing everything. Then I picked up with the publisher, Lioncrest, that published Can't Hurt Me with David Goggins.
Oh, yeah.
And so from there, I was working with the publisher for about another year, 2 years, and then we released the book. We just reached our 1 year anniversary last year, actually. And so that was how I got started into writing.
That's dope. So how many renditions do you go through in that once you linked up with the publisher? Like,
Oh, man.
did they comb through it a lot? Or is it like a lot of editing?
I already did most of my editing beforehand. So Adam Skolnick, who was the ghostwriter for Can't Hurt Me with David Goggins, in a traditional publishing sense, you have to put out a query letter, which is about a quick synopsis, and you send that out to any traditional publisher. They can pick it up or they can't. And a lot of times they won't even respond to the email. But I sent out a few, and then Adam responded back, and he was like, hey, I love this. This is dope. Like, I think there's a lot of parallels similar to David Goggins' story, but I love what you're doing. And so from there, he basically, in a way, mentored me. So the first 4 or 5 drafts I had to Prove Them Wrong, Adam Skolnick critiqued it and sent it back to me and was like, change this, change that. It was a completely different title at the time. I think I went from Gangs at first, then it was Who Am I? I thought that's what it was going to be, and eventually it came to Prove Them Wrong. I thought that was a title that everybody could relate to,
it's dope.
Whether it be business, family, trying to overcome any adversity or trying to just naysayers. I just felt like it really resonated with people, and it was a punch. It stood out, you know what I mean? And at some point, once the publisher got involved, I only went through 2 renditions, and then we published.
That's
Man,
crazy.
that's impressive. Most people nowadays, they just go self-publish, but you actually got a legit publisher and one of the best, to be honest. How much did your life change when the book came out?
It definitely changed a lot. I think just the exposure and the amount of people that lives it impacted. When you have people that are leaving the reviews, and I'm talking about not just a sentence or two, they're leaving full reviews. The book has so many different awards, as you mentioned. We got another award last week, and I didn't even know. People were tagging me on stuff on LinkedIn about the Reader's Digest and stuff like that. And I think they had the ceremony in Boston. I wasn't even there for it. I wasn't tracking it. Or just even when people get random calls, libraries are saying, hey, someone recommended your book, we're gonna stock it, stuff like that. So I would definitely say it's just a blessing in terms of speaking engagements, in terms of exposure, outreach. I think one of the things I'm thankful for is that once you're a Wall Street Journal bestselling author, you're a Wall Street Journal bestselling author. That's what you get introduced as, no matter what you do. in life, whether you be in business, consulting, whatever it is, speaking. And so I think more than anything, I'm just thankful that the book has been able to be a platform to reach out to people, especially kids, and show them that you could come from the gutter, let's just say any unfortunate situation. I think that, not everybody could come from the hood, but everybody could come from a level where it's like less than, or a level they don't want to be at. Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. Everybody could come from a level where they don't want to be at and they're not happy with, and how do you rise above that?
Right.
And I feel like if you relate to that, which I think a lot of people do, then prove them wrong is for you.
Man,
I can't wait. I can't wait to read it, man.
Do you have the audio? Do you have the audio book?
I don't. I am working on that.
You're like, I don't want to read all them pages out loud.
Man, if you think that took a while to do, an audiobook, it's another beast, man.
Yeah.
The way the your environment has to be a certain way, and you have to clip it in segments. It's a whole process, and so that is going to take me probably a full couple months to a year to do that for that length.
Would you be open to having someone else read it to create an audiobook version?
I thought about that, but the advice I got was like, everyone was like, no, because it's your story.
Yeah, they want to hear your voice.
They would say you need to do it your voice. Now, I will eventually write some other business and self-published motivation books.
Yeah.
At that point, okay, you can hire it out because it's not my story or my voice. But for this, I think it has to come from me.
Bro, I bet you they're doing this now. Imagine if you, you know how they do the AI voices?
Yeah.
If you just train an AI to your voice, upload the transcript, boom.
No. I didn't even think about
that. Smart, though.
Yeah, you can do that. Nah, this has to be organic.
I'm gonna push it out of his mouth. He's like, how the fuck did Dre do that? I'm like, he planted the seed.
Man, it's still the same story.
Yeah.
You know?
Would you want to do it like how David Goggins' book is, where he reads a chapter and then goes almost like podcast style after each chapter?
Absolutely. I would not want to do it traditionally. I think that a lot of people would like that. I listened to David's, and I got the same feedback from the publisher and from other people that really love the book. They said, are you going to do a podcast? I'm sorry, are you going to do the audiobook? And it should be the same way.
Interesting. Yeah. That's cool.
Did you ever meet David?
I did it. Obviously, I feel like I know a lot of people in his circle.
Yeah.
3 or 4 people, but have not had the chance to meet him yet. But that would be an amazing opportunity. I'm sure I will in the future.
Yeah. That'd be cool, man. And then also you have your own podcast as well, right?
Yeah, Multifamily by the Slice.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. What's that about?
My other podcast host, Chi Nu and Ike Eke, we all come from the real estate space. I met Ike. He's another brother that's actually from California. We met at a real estate meetup when I first got started 2 years ago. And from there, we just kept in contact, told him I wanted to start a podcast, and I did him as one of my first few interviews, actually. We had a very organic, natural vibe, and from there, we started the podcast together. It's been doing great. We went on a pause as we figure out a new space, which I was talking to you about, because everything we were doing was virtual, and I loved it. But we want to take things to the next level. There's nothing that beats having an organic conversation, physical conversation in person, and so we are looking at spaces now so we can, take the podcast to the next step.
Absolutely.
Can't wait for that, man.
I know.
If you need our help, man, we'll help you out.
Yeah, with the setup as well, obviously.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, this a little beyond me. I don't know what none of them buttons and fancy lights do.
It's not as complicated as you think,
complicated,
but,
man.
We'll help set it up.
You said you're from Chicago, right?
Yeah, Chi-Town.
Do you? There's a real estate guy from there. I can't think of his name for whatever reason, but he was a cop, and then now he's like a big
9 to 5 millionaire.
Yeah, 9 to 5. What's his? Yeah.
Yeah, cop in Chicago.
Right.
Eric Thomas. I love Eric Thomas. E.T. the hip hop preacher. Shout out to him. I love his stuff, man. I listen to him every week. Just a fire for motivation and for outreach. And so I believe that, I'm guessing E.T. somehow found out about the 9 to 5 millionaire and his story, his journey. He came on with that platform with like education and stuff, because I know E.T. got his master's in education and just trying to teach people about real estate.
Yeah, that's dope. I was following him for a long time too, because I was trying to get into the real estate side as well, but music kept pulling me and da-da-da-da, so it's still part of the game plan now. So I would love to, I need to research your story and listen to your podcast as well, because the multifamily thing is definitely a part of the plan.
Yeah, man, how'd you get into investing in multifamily units?
Okay, yeah, well, you should still plug the first book, but that's my property. That's the name of my business and my company.
Yeah.
That was actually my first book. Still did really well.
Say the name of it again?
That's My Property.
Oh, That's My Property.
So that was an Amazon bestseller. That was my first book that I released. If you type in this, click my name, the other two will come up. But that one is my journey. So it's separated into 3 parts. The first part is how I did my first deal, how I got started in real estate, and I'll describe that soon. The second part is everything people need to know about multifamily investing. I found that during my time when I started the podcast, when I started my meetup here in San Diego, and I was just really doing deals, a lot of people ask the same questions. And I know for me, coming from that background, especially being a minority, like, you cannot dream what you cannot see. And I also felt like in this space, in multifamily and commercial real estate, things are so complicated. It's like, how does a simple person explain these things and understand these things? And so that was the purpose of it. Right. How do I explain this to people, everyday people, that they can get it and walk away with it and grasp it, pretty much for a high school level or above. And then the third part is a full vocabulary list from A to Z of all the terms that people need to know. And so that was the purpose of that. So like I said, not to plug it, but I think it directly relates to what you said. Absolutely. You want to learn about it, and I'm sure other people want to learn about it. So I went to the Naval Academy, majored in engineering, was a submarine officer, then a supply corps officer. I had a buddy of mine that graduated as well. We kept in contact, and we were meeting at a coffee shop actually down the street from the University of San Diego at a Starbucks. I'm sitting there venting to my mans about everything that's going on in my life. Like, man, like, I want to break that barrier of financial poverty and stuff in my family with my mom. I want to provide for her, buy the house, the whole nine. Yeah. And I'm like, until that book comes out, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And he's like, you should buy a multifamily. And I'm like, what's that? And so for the next, like, 2-3 minutes, he's trying to describe it to me, but it's like going over my head because I had never, no cap, I've never heard multifamily, like that term before.
Right.
And I don't know what you believe in, but I believe in God. And I feel like God was like playing a joke on me because he knew I wasn't getting it. Right. And so he takes me, we get in my Hellcat, we drive down the street, and he takes me to the property to show it to me. But here's how I felt like I never thought I would buy more than my dream home, a single family home. Right. This is how I feel like everything is aligned. Where you talk about like it was like destiny, it was like fate. I was on deployment, my last deployment. COVID broke out. The ship, we don't know what's going on. We just know that COVID, we're seeing everything on the news, whatever. They won't even let us pull in. I'm literally watching the city of San Diego. We're circling around the water in like a circle for about 2 weeks. We finally pull in. All the gyms are closed. I'm like, hell no. Nah. I gotta work out. You know what I mean? So I'm looking all around the city trying to see where do I work out. Right. And I remember there was this gym called Grinders Gym. So I pull up to Grinders Gym, and I remember parking on this block. And when I parked, there was this nice big house. And I remember there was a couple, they had like a rooftop deck. I'm like, man, that's super nice. Like, I've never seen something like that. It looked really modern looking. I didn't know it was a multifamily. But in my mind, it's just a big house. It was a fancy big house. Pull up, go to Grinders Gym. So now, fast forward, when Keegan and I get in my Hellcat and we drive down the street and we pull up
same spot
to his 3-unit, it's next door to the modern looking, what I thought was a house. Yeah. And then so that was the other thing that came full circle. I was like, oh my God. Of all places, of all blocks. Right. This is next door. And then this is the other kicker. I told you I went to the Naval Academy. There's 4 service academies: the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, West Point, which is Army, and then the Merchant Marine Academy in Kingsport, New York. All the multifamily properties on that block were pretty much owned by Academy grads. So that was the other thing. I was like, is it
This is lining up way too well.
And I'm like, line up. Yeah. And so then I think God being funny took it another step. He showed it to me, but I'm like, okay, you bought multifamily is another word for apartment. Right. And then he took it the step further. So then Keegan's like, okay, come inside. So I go inside. He takes me to his unit. We go into the office. He pulls up Craigslist, LoopNet, Zillow, the Home Snap, opens it up. He's showing these multifamilies in San Diego. And I'm like, bro, I don't have $1 million. I don't know how I'm going to afford this. And then he shows me one in Mission Hills. It was $1.4 million. And we run some numbers on it, and he showed me how to make it work. And that was like the final step for me, the nail in the coffin. I'm like, I think I'm supposed to do something with this, because not only did he show me the physical location, but then he took the time, like an hour or 2 hours, to show me how to underwrite it. And I felt like I was supposed to be here for a reason. There was a reason why all this aligned. And so I walked away, and I remember if Keegan told this story, he would tell you that he felt like I was scared. That he scared me away. Yeah. But I think I was so shocked about everything that he showed me in that moment, because no one in my family ever, I got told that you only have one credit card, you know what I mean? Right. Not realizing that that's not true. All the things I was told about financing, credit cards, real estate, debt was all wrong. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it makes sense. My parents did the best they could, but that's just the environment I came from, especially coming from the hood. And I went away from it. I think I meditated on it for a good 2-3 days. And then something again in my back of my mind was like, that spirit speaking to me was like, you got to look into this. Mm-hmm. So I went YouTube University, Podcast University. I listened to every single thing I could on anything with a multifamily apartment building. I listened to it and I read it. Yeah. And then from there, I was like, I got the education. I didn't do the analysis paralysis like some people do. They read, over-educate themselves, but they never act. Right. They never move. It's something I was like, you know what? If I don't do something, I won't ever change my environment. Because there's two types of pain, the pain of discipline or pain of regret. Which will you choose? Right, exactly. And so at some point, I'm like, I got to act. So I acted. And I started looking. I looked at that $1.4 million in Mission Hills that was still available. I could have went in escrow on it, but something in my gut was like, wait. Yeah. I didn't do it. And then another day, something was like, just remove the cap. Because I was pre-approved at $1.4 million. Remove the cap, and let's see what's in San Diego. And when I did that, it was almost like my vision, my line of sight opened up, because more opportunities became available of what was around in San Diego. Right. And then the conversation went from, okay, don't let the lender cap you. If the deal is a hit, figure out the money later. Right. And that's exactly what I did.
The numbers make sense.
Exactly. There was another one that came available in Mission Hills. That was a 5-unit, and then there was the 4-unit in PB, which I eventually closed on. Uh-huh. And that one had so much upside that I eventually went for that one. It was a $2 million property. I own it today, and it's the best deal, best move I ever made. Yeah.
And that was number one. That was the first deal.
That was the first deal.
Come on, let's go.
And then I'm assuming in the book, unless you want to share with us now, you talk about how you figured the money part out.
Yeah.
You got to read the book to get that story.
It's in there. In detail.
Yeah. How do you feel about now? Because all the interest rates were low back then. And how do you feel about buying properties now? You think people should wait, or you think any time's a good time?
You watch basketball?
A little bit.
You like Bron?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not. Yeah. But LeBron James, right? Like, he's got to play ball every day, right? Basically, no matter what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. Even when COVID, right? But they put him in a bubble. Mm-hmm. No matter what, if he's sick, he's got a ball. Yeah. Real estate's the same way. Y'all get it. Y'all business owners, you got your marketing firm and everything in the consulting. No matter what, when it rains, when you're sick, you get a flat, you still got to come in and grind and hustle. Right. Right? And so real estate's the same way. It's tougher with the interest rates being high, but that doesn't mean I'm still going to look. I was under contract on another multifamily in National City. Had a big plot of land. I was going to build it up, add some ADUs to it, midterm rental. The house, it was literally right next door to a hospital in Chula Vista, Main Road. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, National City, Main Road. It was gorgeous property. You know what I mean? And I still was able to make it work, the numbers. You know what I mean? When I underwrote it. So I say that to say that it is going to be more difficult, especially trying to do deals here in San Diego. But no matter what, there's many different ways. And you might find yourself doing hybrid. Maybe you were doing multifamily before, but you might have to be a little bit creative. Instead of funding on your own, maybe you bring in 1 or 2 partners. Maybe you do a condo approach and you buy a couple condos for cash flow. Maybe you buy a couple single families. Maybe you get into note investing. Mm-hmm. Maybe you do some flips. Maybe you invest in syndication. But no matter what, every single day you're moving the needle and you're still investing in real estate, but you're opening up your perspective and you're opening up your mind. And until things level out, then you can go back to your bread and butter, but you're still making it work.
Interesting. I like that. That's crazy. You had mentioned before, like, your eyes kind of opens to the opportunity. It's like I hear people talk about a lot where, like, you don't it's like you don't know what you don't know, but then once you have that new information, all of us, it's like when you just find out about a car and you're like, oh, that's a dope car, and then all of a sudden you're seeing the car everywhere. It's like your mind is conscious of it now, even though it was always there in front of you, but now you've unlocked that element of consciousness, and then it's like, boom, now you're like, oh, instead of seeing like this, now I see like this in this particular area. Yeah. And it's like, that's just so powerful. That's why education is so important, you know, continuing to learn about new shit all the time. It's like, so get the book. Man, so I was gonna say, so that story that you were telling us, you said that was pre-COVID, or that was just like 2020 or 2021.
So
that when
I
your first property.
will hit 3 years.
Yeah.
I always remember this because I closed on that Pacific Beach 4 unit on Christmas Eve. That was my other sign.
Dang.
So I will be 3 years December 24th.
Dang.
That's how I never forget it.
Are you looking at properties now all over the country, or sticking to San Diego?
I'm still sticking to San Diego. I do stuff out of the country, but it is a case-by-case basis, depending on the network that I have there and in the deal itself, if it's unique enough. But I would say yes. I am still. I am looking at some retail now in San Diego. I've got some mentors and I've got some great connections in that front, so that are back me with that and support me with that. So I'm looking at that to educate me and ramp me up with that. I'm looking at some self-storage. I'll probably scoop up a few single families, even though that's not my preferred choice. I prefer multifamily and commercial real estate. But again, if I can bring in a couple $1,000s from those, and there was some deals that I'm analyzing, why not scoop up 2, 3, 4 of those? Right. Again, you're diversifying. I scooped up a couple condos downtown that cash flow me. You know, you're being unique, but you're still adding. If you think about it, if you added $500 to $1,000 net from each deal, like, that's pretty good. That stacks. Yeah. And then you can take that money and you can roll it over into buying other businesses or buying real estate. And that's the other thing I've been getting into is businesses as well.
How important is mentorship and finding the right mentor?
I think mentorship is everything. I know that's like for some people that's a touchy subject or a hard subject because they feel that, how do I find a mentor that wants to pour into me? That's different, man, because I feel like mentors gravitate to certain people for many different reasons. It could be, oh, I see myself in that person, or or there's something that, you know, they feel that you can add value to them and they can add value to you. I would say the best way to find a good mentor is if there are some people that you identify with. So let's say there's 5 people you want to connect with that you look up to, whatever the space is. And let's say you email them, text them, DM them, whatever. If they have social media, I would say if you're messaging them and commenting on their post, that's one way to get their attention. If you see something that's wrong on their website, bringing that to their attention is another way to get their attention and say, hey, I noticed this error on your website. I noticed this error on your post. If you see something about that operation that you think you can improve, being respectful in a way to reach out to them. Those are type of, I would say,
adding value,
unique tactics that you can do to get someone's attention if you have that feeling that they're high up and you're trying to figure out how to reach them, unless you obviously meet someone that can open that door for you. And that's the other leg of it, is networking, right? And also, too, you have to be open to network. And I definitely feel this is personal for me, and this hits home. I am naturally closed off because coming from Chicago and coming from the hood, you don't trust people. And I can't tell you my intentions. I can't tell you what my goals are. I can't tell you what I'm thinking and how I'm going to move, because people use that as ammunition against you. They use that as power against you. And even your dreams, if you share your dreams and your goals, then people are like, no, you can't do that. Now they belittling you, right? So I had to learn that closed mouths also don't get fed. And as I came out here and I got into real estate and I got into business, I learned very quickly that, okay, there's some truth to that. But at the same time, for example, if I meet you and I don't tell you that I'm trying to buy multifamily real estate, how are you going to know? So the next time you could be meeting someone and someone could say, oh, multifamily San Diego. You'd be like, you know what? I know a guy, Dre. And every time you think real estate, you'll think Dre. And you know what? But hey, Dre, I met this person that's doing real estate in San Diego. Here you go. Right. Hope you guys hit up. And the same thing for you guys. I know that you do content creation for businesses. So what am I going to do? As I go out in the world, every single day, I'm going to meet people. Yeah. And and if I ever hear someone that says they want consulting or any type of advice on media or content creation, who do you think I'm going to think of and who do you think I'm going to hit up? Right. You guys. But I never would have known that had you not opened up your mouth and said, this is what we do. This is what I'm looking for. And see, that's the power of your network, and that's the power of connections. It literally feeds itself, but you have to open up a little bit and let people know what you're working on, what you're trying to do, and that feeds things, and that also feeds mentorship. Right. And if you meet someone and they also say, hey, I know a person, that opens a door, and next thing you know, that person that could have been hard to reach, but because they could be cousins or close friends with a person or whatever, that opens that door for you.
Did you ever suffer from imposter syndrome? You know what imposter syndrome is?
Like not feeling like I can.
Yeah. Like not feeling like like you're not him. You know what I mean? Like for example, I remember when my goal used to be I want to make $10,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where I grew up, I didn't like similar situation. Is no one had businesses. Everyone went to prison. No one had money. Everyone was poor. And if I said something like, "Oh, I want to make $10,000," man, ain't nobody make $10,000, man. Like, who do you know make $10,000? Ain't nobody making 10. Man, quit thinking about that. Stress yourself. You know what I mean? So you start thinking like, damn, maybe he's right. Maybe I can't make $10,000. You know what I mean? Or whenever you have an idea, you're like, man, if I do A, B, and C, I can really like blow things up. They're like, oh man, like, and it just shuts you down to the point where you're doubting yourself. You don't even believe you first you believed you could do something, and now they shot you down. Now you're like, yeah, maybe I can't do something.
I thought that's what you meant. Mm-hmm. And yes, I actually discussed that a lot and proved them wrong. I suffered from that a lot. That I call it kid from Chicago mentality. Mm-hmm. Because as I mentioned before, you cannot dream what you cannot see. And when it comes to finances, when it comes to goals, when it comes to anything, I actually suffered from that a lot when I was in the process in escrow on my first deal, because my family was telling me not to do it. That's $2 million. That's too much. Who are you? You can't do this. And even once I did my book, they were like, don't do that. That's too much. Like, I've had so many instances where people are like, that's too much. Like, I understand that you're ambitious. You've accomplished a lot, but like, you need to chill out. And that's not possible. You know what I mean? And I think at some point, man, you gotta, I would say actually, even with everything that's happened, it wasn't until very recently, if I'm being really vulnerable and transparent, in the last 3 months, where I feel like I really cured myself from it. I hit home and I was like, you know what? I don't have to be, there's a difference between confidence, humble godly confidence, and arrogance. Mm-hmm. And one thing I found is that I feel that people are so quick that if you're confident, they try to dumb you down, because if you accomplish something, they try to make you feel less than because they didn't get out the bed to do it.
Right, exactly.
And I had to take a point where I finally realized that, and I had actually, my mentor was the one that kind of started that movement. He checked me on it, telling me basically like, you need to stop doing that shit. And once he said that to me and I really started meditating on it and reflecting on it, I was like, yo, like, you got to move with your head up and know that, like, you know what, like, be humble, but be confident as fuck. And like, yo, like, I can do this. I know I'm going to accomplish this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to wake up every day with fire in my belly and know that life is short, and I'm not going to look back on my life and on my deathbed and die on E. Right. You know what I mean? And I think that at some point you got to realize that your motivation, for me, it used to come from my mom and from my family. And in a way it still does. But at some point you got to realize that they're going to let you down. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to always see the vision. Right. And at that point, then what do? You can't just give up. So you got to have that own fire in your belly. You got to find something else to latch on that's going to motivate you. Right. And I would say truthfully, like transparently, in the last 2-3 months is when I finally came to resolution with that. Like, you are enough to accomplish these things, and you got to stop let people say things over you and speak things over you. Like, you got to rebuke that shit. Right.
And it's because, like you said, they're projecting their own fears onto you.
And you don't realize when people do it too. Right. You could be having an organic conversation, and some people can say stuff over you and put stuff over you. You don't. It might not be till later that day. You be like, when they said that to you, like, nah, that was kind of like low key shade. You know what I mean? Right. So like, you gotta.
Are you still doing that little real estate shit?
Yeah. Whatever it is, man. And it could take many different flavors. People can be very creative and very cunning on how they do it, and that's why I say you gotta always move with your head up and just like, I don't care what you say, I don't care what you think. I'm gonna move the way I move in confidence.
And to go back to what you were saying before, I think it's like the risk and fear, like. The bigger the risk, the more fear associated with it. But to be able to see outside of like the mental construct that a lot of people are trapped in, right? Like being from where you're from, like people can't see, like you had mentioned, like you can't envision on what you can't see, right? And so if you have the ability to kind of see outside of it, then that's what freaks people out, because it's outside of the comfort zone, it's outside of what they believe to be possible, right? And that's a risk. There's a big risk associated with seeing outside of that comfort zone, and that is scary. That's a scary thing. And the fact that what you did was a scary thing. Like, I think that anybody who's never done it before would look at that and be like, dang, you're about to buy a $2 million like apartment complex, like just out of nowhere. That's fucking scary.
Yeah, it takes some balls.
You know? And so the fact that you are able to, first of all, you have to have the vision. That's what creates that little bit of like possibility that you believe in. And then you're willing to take that risk because there's risk involved. And the fact that you fucking accomplished it, then it's like, boom, then that gives you that tiny bit more confidence to do it again. And then now you're at a place where now you're comfortable stepping outside and taking consistent risks. So it's not scary anymore. It's just like, the only way that you can grow is if you take these little risks all the time and move. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you had to break through, man. Because I remember even like my boy Jason Stewart, he's a realtor too, an investor, all that stuff. And he's like, hey man, like, he was talking about real estate. He's like, yeah, like he was giving me an example of how he sells real estate. He's like, well, Jeremiah, who do you know that owns a house or whatever? I'm like, I don't know anyone who owns a house. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think I could sell a house. You know what I mean? Because I don't know anyone. And he would ask me questions like, if you could own a Lambo or whatever, he's like, what would you want to have? I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't want no Lambo. Even though I was rich, I wouldn't want a Lambo. But then I realized that was because I didn't ever believe I could own a Lambo. So I was like, it's easier to say. And then eventually I owned like three luxury. Eventually I owned 3 luxury cars, you know. But now I believe it. I'm like, oh yeah, I could definitely own a Lambo now. But if you don't break through and widen the vision, you gotta believe it before you can achieve it. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Yeah. So, shit.
That's dope.
You just brought, yeah. So it's a journey. No, for real, it's a journey, man. Like you're saying, it only took you the last 3 months, you know, and you're very successful now. You got your books. You know, I seen you pull up in the Lambo, bro. You know what I mean?
I didn't see you on the street.
I see you in the street, man. And now you're successful and you have all these things, and even now you're just still trying to like break through that. You know what I mean?
I think that's inspiring for people to hear, though. You know, like the fact that you can have a lot of success and still deal with fear and still deal with, you know, not thinking that you're enough necessarily.
I'm human. You know what I mean? I'm not perfect. I think that with social media, man, it's easy for people to be like, this is be flashy and shit, you know, like this is what they have. But I'm like, man, it's been a journey, and everybody's human. Everybody has things that they struggle with and things they got to work on. But at the same, everything is work, man. Your mindset is work. I went to therapy. I went to counseling. I got that shit out of me. Most of it, writing the book, got that shit out of me. But like those childhood Dre, you know what I mean? The traumas, all the Chicago gang shit, all of that. But I think therapy was the last step, because there was a lot of chains that I had that were holding me down from my family, and the things that I went through growing up with that. And so at some point, like, I had to seek that, and I was like, I got to get all of this out of me, because in order for me to go to the next level, I have to do different things. The same way, like a billionaire thinks differently than a millionaire, right? And there's a book that I'm reading on Think Like a Billionaire, and it's so crazy because the whole premise of the book is how a millionaire is wrong.
Wow.
And that's crazy, right? Because in every chapter, it's like, this is what the billionaire does. This is what the millionaire does. Wow. And it's very interesting how, you know, in order to go to the next level, you got to do different shit. Yeah. You got to think differently. The way you approach your morning is different. The way you approach your free time is differently. What do you do when you're in the car? Do you listen to music? Is it quiet? Or do you listen to podcasts and audiobooks? Right? When you're working out, what do you listen to? How do you spend your free time? Do you make time for physical fitness? How important is that in your life? What advantages does that have for you? How do you spend your weekends? How do you spend your evenings? Like, all of that matters. If you show me your schedule and you put up your calendar, and I saw what you did in a day and in a week, I can
tell you how much money you're making.
I'll tell you how much money you're making, not only but I'll tell you how far you're gonna go.
Right.
And I don't think people realize that, like, you conquer the day, you conquer the week, you conquer the month, you conquer the year. And all those little things, they add up. It's so funny. Like, at the Naval Academy, we did a lot of dumb shit. Right? One of the things was it was called chopping. So imagine like everywhere you go, it's just another form of jogging and running. So everywhere you running, and it was so exaggerated. So when you made a left, you had to say, "Beat Army, sir." Go Navy, sir. And you make a right, beat Army, sir. Go Navy, sir. Like every time you went, and we had these little gray steel plates, and when you sit on it, you only could turn on that gray steel plate. So everything was just such an inconvenience. And I remember thinking like, you had to rush. So we had to do uniform races too. So they would line us up on a wall, which is another form of bokeh. So imagine everybody, if this is the wall, and we were all line up, imagine the three of us like at attention.
Right.
And then they say, okay, come out with your white's uniform. We come out, it's on a hanger, and like, okay, you got 2 minutes, go. And you got to come out and everything on their medals and all, come out sweating and shit. And they're like, all right, now go put on this uniform. And we would call it uniform races. So we would do that every single day, all day, for hours.
Damn.
And I was like, what the fuck is this?
It's got to do with anything.
Like, what is the point of this? It's a waste of time. But I tell you this, man. That thing right there isn't the edge. Because even to go about my day, instead of moving slow, I'm running. Mm-hmm. I'm running through my day. If I'm going to pick up something to print, I'm jogging. Yeah. Because all those little things, because it's such ingrained in me that I got to move at such a fast pace, that when you really think about it, those little split seconds, I'm doing it every single day. I'm getting stuff done faster, more productive. Speed is everything. Every day is $1 loss. And I don't think people realize that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, speed is everything.
And we talk about all the time. I mean, our mentors tell us as well, like, the speed of your success is based on your speed of implementation.
Facts.
Right? And so it's like, go back to your story of, finding out about that house and then like dwelling on it for 3 days and then pulling the trigger. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fast. You to be able to take a concept or an idea or a process or a system and quickly applying it, as opposed to just dwelling on it and thinking about it, and then weeks go by and and it's like the quicker you can implement something. So I mean, even though you're practicing that on a micro level, it's like that's what you're saying. Like throughout your day, like how are you spending your time? How quickly are you transitioning between things? Like that's going to apply to your business, to other aspects of your life. You know?
What does your morning routine look like?
I get up at 3 a.m.
Just something light. 3
a.m.
What time you go to bed?
11. But I'm used to that.
Yeah.
I trained myself to that.
Right.
Growing up, my mom never let us sleep in past 10. Mm-hmm. So that was the first thing I grew up knowing, that like on a Saturday morning and Sunday morning, I can't sleep in Sunday. You got to go to church. So you're not sleeping in anyway. And get your ass beat missing church. You know what I mean? And then went to the Naval Academy. We were getting up at 5. So at some point, I was getting up at 5 all throughout my naval career, really 4 or 5, because you got to get up at 4 to make it to base. Right. So, and get parking. So at some point, I was saying on average, I'm getting up between 3 to 4. Yeah. I get up, I read Proverbs. I'm a big believer in that, Book of Wisdom. Mm-hmm. If there's anything I want wisdom. Like, I don't, if you can give me a superpower, fly, fucking shoot laser beams out of my eyes and shit, like, I want wisdom. Yeah. I just think that that's the dopest thing to have, because if wisdom in relationship, wisdom in connections, wisdom in money and finance, wisdom in how you move, wisdom in leadership, wisdom in how I lead my family. Like, I feel like wisdom is the greatest thing you could ever have. It's just guidance. Yeah. And so I've always sought that, and that's the book of Proverbs. So there's 31 chapters. So I read a chapter a day no matter what. And then once I hit 31, I just repeat. So I read my book of Proverbs. I pray for things that I'm thankful for, and the things that I feel like God are putting in my mind. And from there, I keep a notebook around me, and I write out every single thing that I have to do that day. Habit from the Naval Academy. You're running around doing things. There's so much you have to do. Yeah. You have to write it all out, because you'll forget. And it's just a habit that I've continued to this day. There's so many businesses and there's so many things that I manage and do. And down to the things of, I have to message you. Down to the things I have to make a phone call. I have to follow up. Like when I get text messages, I get so many text messages that I can't just go through my phone. Like I have to literally write out, respond back, respond to Mike, respond to Shannon, respond to Tyrese. Like I have to do those things, because then and that also is that dopamine hit. When I have it on there, I'm like, respond
Cross it off.
Respond it. Set up this meeting. Respond it. Like, so I have to lay out every single thing. I review that in the morning, and then from 3 to 7 is pretty much my sacred time, because I know that once 7 hit, the day gets busy when you're running business. So after you pray, after you look at your day, and if there's anything I need to add to that, I'll add that to that rider route, and I'll review what I have for the week, and I'll review what I had from yesterday. From that point, you can use that time for other things. I can choose, depending on the day, if I can't make it to the gym in the afternoon when I prefer to go, then I'll go work out at 3 a.m. By 3:30 at that point, really, because it takes you 30 minutes. If I'm going to have time in the afternoon workout, which is usually the case, then that time, okay, I'll underwrite properties. I'll look at a business. I'll read. I'll do something that will advance me mentally, or advance me in real estate, or advance me in just from a business or well-rounded perspective. And that's essentially how I spend my morning, because everything after that is all operations and business and connections and meetings and phone calls. Right. Until the afternoon, you work out at the gym, you spend a little time with the lady, and that's it.
Right.
Repeat.
So when did you get to that point where that was your routine? Like, when did that start?
Well, I was already doing 5 a.m.
Right.
But when I bought my property, was the 4 unit, that's when the business mindset came. And at that point, I had to shift and pivot, because even when I was on a ship, I would get up at 3. At that time, I would work from 3 to 5. Go on the ship from 5. During my lunch period, I would lock my door so people can't bother me, and I would read and do real estate for that hour.
So you were already doing it while you were still on the ship?
Yes. I would make time.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people can resonate with that. Even if you have a 9 to 5, what do you use your lunch break for?
Just like 9 to 5 millionaire.
I guess so. I never thought about it like that way.
Same, bro.
Yeah, and so then obviously same thing. So all right, after that lunch break, you work your regular, you back doing Navy shit on the ship. You come home, you work out right after you get off base. And then at night, what do you use your night for? Do I watch TV? Right. Do I go drink? No, I go work. I work on the business. You go to sleep, repeat.
Let me ask you this: do you, how much time do you spend procrastinating? You know what I mean? Or like, how much time do you spend on social media, or just sort of like non-income producing activities? Sort of like they could be considered a waste of times. And when do you make time to be on like social media or watch TV or
I shun social media, bro. I've never been a social media person. I grew up not fucking with it. Yeah. Because my parents were like not big into that type of stuff. They didn't really care for that. So I never really grew up all into that, and I'm just old school. I know it's important. I think I have a robust social media, but I took a break. As you can see, like I was posting 4 or 5 times, 6 times a week. But then the last 3 months, I took a pause because I need that. Like I use it to recalibrate. So like, you know what? I took a pause from it. This month I'll come back and, you know, we'll replan out everything and I'll be posting again. But because I know it's a necessary part of business. Yeah. But I only do that for that person. I don't give 2 shits what people are doing on social media. Right. Because if I'm too busy looking at stuff and scrolling, it's too much wasted time. And if I have a connection with you, I don't need to be on social media to find out what the fuck you're doing. Yeah, like we can connect through coffee, or you're calling me, or you're texting me. Right. And I just it's a lot of, I think that it's another reason why I think J. Cole talked about it too, or he has to shut down from it, because you find yourself like comparing yourself to other people, and I think it breeds depression. I think that there are definitely motivating things you can get from social media. I'm not trying to knock it, but like a lot of things I follow is uplifting. You know, I love everything is real estate or books or financial freedom or things that are uplifting. True, but it's still, even with that, it can still
it creates anxiety.
I'm glad you said that. It can create anxiety. So that is another reason why I know me. I know my personality. So that's why I took it 3 months off. And I'll just come back. I'll grow it more like I did, because I had nothing. Grew it to 15,000 followers. We had all the books released, social, real estate. I'll take a break, come back, grow it again. I'll do it for 2-3 years. Then I'll go back. And then I'll take a break, because I need that. You know?
Yeah. You know, and that's why it's very important, if you're a business, you want to have a social, because I made a video about this a long time ago. Yeah. It's like social media is toxic, and it's designed to be addicting.
Yeah. Right.
And so what you want, if you're a business, the last place you want to be on is in social media. You want to be productive. You know what I mean? And you can't be productive as soon as because the algorithm knows what you want. So it'll show you something, and next thing you know, you're like, I just spent 15, 20. I only meant to answer a message, and now I've been on here for like half an hour. You know what I mean? And that's why you need a team behind you who can have you a living, breathing social media that's alive while you don't have to focus on it. You know what I mean? And dude, social media is toxic as fuck,
ideal.
man.
Bro, they got my mom. They finally got my mom.
She on TikTok?
Not on TikTok, but on Instagram, and like all of a sudden, she was like, "Oh, I like these new videos; are so good."
Scrolling,
and
posting.
and now she's sending me videos all day long. And then she's like, "Man, I swear, I just get stuck on this phone." I'm like, "Mom, you gotta stop."
Yeah.
I see all the videos you send me. Trust me, I seen them all. Like,
Seen all your cat videos.
man.
Oh man, do you take a nap throughout the day?
I do. I might find myself like, if I'm up from 3 to 7, I'll hit it hard. And at 7, I'll nap for 30 minutes to an hour, get up, and then hit the rest of the day. I'm normally not a nap person, but when you're getting up at 3, it's like and you're hustling and bustling, I will take those power naps. I'm used to doing that at Naval Academy if I'm waiting for a brief. Because I keep referencing that because that's the foundation of discipline for me. You know what I mean? So we could be waiting for a brief. I'm waiting to speak to my the people I'm leading. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, bet. I'm going to close my eyes for like 10 minutes, wake up, and get it.
Yeah. Because your routine, bro, that's not easy, man. I mean, just being perfectly candid, you know what I'm saying? Like that takes a lot of discipline, in my personal opinion, to be able to accomplish, to be able to wake up that early and to be as dedicated and as succinct as you are with like your routine. Because like I try to do that and I'd just be falling asleep at my desk. Falling asleep by writing, Like I've tried to read a lot of things that I've read. It's talking about in terms of writing. 'Cause I know you're a writer as well. I don't know if you write in the morning, but a lot of writers.
I used to when I was writing, but again, after releasing 3 books, I took a year off. So I'll pick back up writing next year.
Yeah, because a lot of writers talk about flow state in the morning. Like
it does. It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
I'm trying to get there, bro. It's so hard for me.
You got at the end, man. You gotta get out of you gotta find a way.
Yeah.
So if you want to find more productive, okay, I bet. All right, how? Kind of like that who not how thing. Like, is it a connection that's stopping you from going to the next place, or is it like you? And so like, all right, I'm gonna put my phone away. My girl will tell you, my phone ain't near me.
Right.
Even today, as habitual as I am, I still keep my phone away. It forces me. So I don't care how tired I am. There are moments where I'm like, hell no, I don't want to get up. But if my phone is away and I gotta get up and go across the room, I'm up.
To get the alarm.
And then what you do, you could put like coffee, cold coffee, a Celsius. You put it right there next to your phone. So then if you get up,
just ready.
And if you need that energy, because some days you'll just do it.
Right.
But if you have that day, you're like, fuck this.
Yeah.
You just take that swig.
Yeah.
And you good to go. And then you go about your day. And same thing, like if you're reading, stand up. I used to do that. I used to tape my notes to the wall.
There you go.
Motherfuckers used to come in like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, I'm studying. I'm reading. So if I'm reading a book on real estate and I'm tired, I stand the fuck up. Like, you got to do what you got to do. Because at the end of the day, man, like, there's people that are smarter than you. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm that smart of a dude. I just hustle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's people that are smarter than you that's working throughout the day. And, like, that's the thing about the world. Like, everything is not, there is balance. I don't want people to be on the podcast like, damn, all this dude is work. Like, no, I thoroughly enjoy. What I really do is I hit it hard Monday through Friday, and then I enjoy my weekends. Because I had a balance, man. I got the lady, like, I got a balance stuff with her. She'll tell you, like, I spend the whole weekend with her. But I still would get up in the morning, or I'll take a little bit of time in the afternoon or a little bit of time at night, and I spend that time with her. Everything is balanced. But I try to treat Monday through Friday like, you got to get everything done, essentially, and that's what works best for me.
Jam pack it.
Jam pack it.
Yeah.
Do you celebrate your wins?
Ooh. Yes and no. I do. I try to reward myself with little things. I'm not a big materialistic person though, so I wouldn't say it like that. I have a little. I mean, I'm excited. I have a few moments, where I celebrate, depending on what it is. But it depends on the goal. I think it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
If it's really what I celebrate is the goals that I'm trying to achieve, like the big steps. The small things, I use them as dopamines to keep pushing me forward. And then once I hit the big accomplishments, I celebrate. It might be go out to a speakeasy, have a nice drink, have a nice dinner with friends or the lady. It might be to take a little trip, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, those are the type of things I like to do. The things that I like to do to celebrate, I like to create memories from. You know what I mean? I think that's more lasting. It's more healthy.
Absolutely.
It lets me like decompress.
Because you got to do something in order to
Because if I just go buy something, like, that doesn't really help me. That doesn't last. You know what I mean? So that's what I do.
No doubt.
Man, that's good right there, man. Yeah, that's what you always talk about, celebrating the wins.
Right, because you hear like about a lot of successful people that are just like, it's never good enough. I'm never satisfied. That's like one of my things. Like, I think that's one of the things that pushes me so much is that like I'm never satisfied. So I just continue pushing. I'm like, I believe that. I was like, I don't know how you find happiness when that's how you operate. And I understand the idea of not being satisfied because it keeps you going. But it's like, I feel like if you don't ever take a moment, I think it goes hand in hand with gratitude, to be honest. I think if you're able to be grateful and if you practice gratitude, that means that regardless of whether you accomplish that or not, you are still happy at your place and you're happy for what you have. And I think that doesn't mean that like, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not motivated. It just means like, I'm happy for this moment right here, right now, no matter what happens, I'm cool right here. Yeah. I think that contributes to a lot of happiness. And when people don't take that time, I think you don't allow yourself to be happy.
You know, man, I always feel like I don't celebrate the wins because I feel like when you're supposed to win. You know what I mean? I was supposed to get that deal. I'm supposed to be here. Actually, I'm supposed to be a lot further than where I'm at right now. Right. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be a winner. You know, so it's like when you win, it's like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be a winner. Right. Like, why are you celebrating what you're supposed to do?
He talked about like celebrating the bigger landmarks, and the ones in between are kind of just like check them off the list.
Yeah,
and then you
I use that as a bigger,
celebrate the bigger one.
Do you? As soon as you have to know, as soon as you wake up, is it feet to the floor? Or do you linger in bed?
I feet to the floor. I've always been that way.
Bro,
I don't twist and turn.
I won't make it if I don't. I won't make it,
dude. Yeah, you know,
because the moment you already, I think there's a sleep study. The moment you already awake halfway. Right. The moment you slip the snooze button, you just took it's a wrap. You lost. You took the L for the day.
Exactly.
Because the moment you already disrupt your sleep cycle. Right. So there's no point of really you hitting that snooze button because your sleep cycle's already messed up. You might as well just get up.
How long does it take you from you wake up, you're like groggy, you're like, oh, life sucks, and to like, okay, now I'm in flow. How long is that?
I mean, it takes some days. It takes longer. Like today was that day. Like it was a little bit longer for me, but I just had to. Like I said, if I eat something or if I drink something, that helps me kick back in there. Or sometimes I might be taking a shower or cold shower, hot shower, whatever you want to do.
Right.
There's different tasks you could do when you feel like you're not natural. Sour Patch Kids in the morning, like, hey man, that sugar cook, like, I do lots of different things, man, to be creative, to switch it up. That if I ever have those days where I'm just not feeling it, like I do that.
But you do what you're supposed to do, regardless.
Well, that's what I mean, man. That's also too. This is a whole different conversation, but that's definition of man. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the same luxuries as women. Yep. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. For the women that listen to this podcast, there's a lot of women hustlers and entrepreneurs. But from a man's standpoint, like, you have priorities. You know what I mean? Like, you can't wake up and be like, I don't feel like doing this shit today. Like, it don't matter. Like, whether you sick, got the flu, like, don't matter. Like, you still got to get up. Like, I was sick a couple weeks ago, and my girl was making soup and doing all these things, but she'd tell you, like, I still have to get up. I can't stand and be like, yeah, man, like, I'm sick. Like, I can't run this business today. Fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't, it don't work that way. You know what I mean? It's all about discipline. It's about duty. It's about keeping your commitments and keeping your priorities. And my mom always used to say that to me. She was always like, do what you got to do. And that's always resonating with me. I always got to do what I got to do, like, no matter how, whether I feel like it or not. And you're going to be so thankful that you did what you had to do, no matter how you feel. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the best discipline ever. Like, if you do what you don't want to do all the time, like, you'll always look back in that happy.
Right.
Always.
You know, and I've always been that way. Like, the old school way of thinking, you know what I mean? Like, is you get up, you go to work, whether you're sick or not. You know, I think it's like people got soft during COVID, where they got the sniffles. I ain't working today, or I ain't doing this today. I got a sniffle.
Because you weren't allowed to.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, nah, man. Like, unless you gotta go to the hospital, you need to get up and handle shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's true. I kind of want to ask. I have two directions I want to go
Let's
question
go.
wise. One is real estate, and the other one is in your past.
Let's do it.
So back when did you make? What was like the decision making point of going to the Navy, and what was taking place before that, leading up to it?
So, imagine you're on the block. Mm-hmm. You're standing there, you're shooting shit with your friend, and you see a car. It's a black car that drives past. Mm-hmm. You don't think nothing of it. It's a regular car. Then it drives by again. Mm-mm. And then you're like, all right, everybody know that come from the hood. that ain't normal.
Right.
And so then that third time he comes around, the window drops down real slow. The hooded figure pops out. You see the weapon pull out, and then the shots ring out. Mm-hmm. And then me and my best friend were bucking and weaving all through the parking lot, dodging bullets. And I'm like screaming his name out. I talk about it in the book. I'm screaming his name out. I don't hear nothing. And I'm like, my heart dropped. You know that feeling like you on a roller coaster and you just like when you they hit you with the drop.
Stomach.
In that stomach, and I'm just like, was he shot? So then I'm like looking under the cars. I'm looking. I don't see no feet. I run up, and then I finally see like towards the back, he's like laying against the car. Mm-hmm. And you know, I'm thinking, did he get shot? Is he bleeding out? And then I thank God he wasn't. But he's sitting there, he's crying. He's in tears. And for him, his mom knew that he was in the gang. And she had just talked to him about the other day about getting out and making something better of his life. And just for me, I had a man that I considered my enemy at the time had told me about West Point, the Army school. Obviously, I didn't go to West Point. I went to the Naval Academy. But I had just gotten back from West Point from a week because I found out about the school and I met this black man who had a PhD and 5 master's degrees, first ever. Never met a man that had a master's to that point. He told me he told us that he'll pay for me to fly out to West Point, and I just felt so safe.
Wow.
Everybody cared about my leadership development and wanted to see me do well, and so I came back with that in the back of my mind about like this is the escape. And when that drive-by happened, that was the turning point, and that's when I was like, enough is enough. And I confronted the gang, but again, everything's about risk. I think that's why I'm probably more of a risk taker,
right?
Because of my environment, because I could have been killed. I also could have been killed or hurt when I confronted the gang to leave.
Right.
But I took that risk because it was like, what if? Well, if I don't do this,
what's the
I
alternative?
damn sure know I'm gonna be in the same position I'm in, if not worse. I'll be killed or I'll be in prison. But if I take a risk and if I make it, then I escape. So I took the risk.
What was that conversation like?
I mean, I talk about it in the book. It wasn't that bad in my eyes. I confronted the main gang leader, Smoke, and we caught him, and they surrounded me. They started the process of beating me out. That was what they chose to do to handle it, but then he stopped it, and he basically said in so many words, you know, Dre, you good with us. Like, and this goes back to impact, right? You never know whose lives you may touch. People are always watching. And I didn't realize that. And I didn't realize that I had that type of impact on the rest of the people that were in the gang. They looked to me. They felt like I was a natural leader, the way I carried myself. And they were all like, essentially, he was like, Dre, like, you always rode for us and you held your own, but you different. Like, this ain't for you, and you have an opportunity
to get out,
to put on for the Chicago. And that was his words. He was like, listen, the only thing you got to do is when you leave Chicago, put on for the city. That's all I ask you to do. If you do that, you good with us. And that's what I did. I left, and I never looked back. I've been back many times to speak to kids. I've been many times to outreach. I'll probably eventually buy some property there. That's definitely a goal of mine. But I really, resonated with the words that he said, and that was my first taste of like, yo, like you really can use your background, and anybody could come from any situation and lead people. And him saying those words was just a testament of that.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
that was pretty badass.
Yeah.
What are you doing in terms of mentorship now?
For me, or that I receive, that I do.
That
you do.
That I do. I mentor a lot of veterans that want to get into owning businesses or getting into real estate. I do a lot of that naturally because of my background. I also do a lot of mentorship just to people in general. That came naturally through my meetup, through my podcast, as I meet people around the way through social media that want to reach out. I'm constantly giving people insights or nuggets just through text, through phone call, sending them books, my own, or books that I recommend that I read, whatever I can do really to pour into people.
Yeah.
And I always have people halfway. I'll do whatever I can to help people, but I'm like, okay, I gave you everything you need. I answered all your questions. Now you got to go do the work.
Right.
And then once they do the work and they come back, then we do the same thing. I help them out, and then they got to go do work and they come back. And so I'm constantly being a vessel of knowledge the best way I can, really, in many different ways to help people out. I had another person that asked me about book stuff, and he had a lot of stuff that we can help each other on. And that's the beautiful thing about networking too. I guess you could call that networking, you could call it mentorship, but I helped him out with some things, and he was like, hey, like I actually got some stuff for you that I think that could help you out. And he told me. So overall, I'm just trying to get back to people in many different facets.
You have any like talks coming up? You plan on being on stage anytime?
Nothing big right now because I am focused right now in my real estate grind. I will pick speaking up back up next year when I get back into writing more books.
Right.
But I have to balance it out because last year was that I was doing a lot of speaking and I was doing a lot of book writing with the book stuff, but it takes away from real estate. And so now I am on savage mode with real estate, and I'm going to carry that into next year. But I'll combine it with a few speaking engagements and some book stuff. But I am on an aggressive front on real estate, given the way things are right now.
So what is like savage mode in real estate look like?
Live and breathe real estate, man. Like I said, I am ramping up to buy some retail properties here in San Diego. Still buying multifamilies here in San Diego. Looking to self-storage. I had a couple meetings with that lined up recently. Yeah. So that's what I mean. I am full front assault on real estate right now.
Nice.
Do you the other question I was going to ask was about like, so if let's say for example I wanted to get into multifamily, is there other opportunities with you or your organization to be able to partner or invest in deals that you're becoming a part of? Like, are you doing any kind of pooling together?
So
like that?
I still do syndications. If they are bigger deals, I will raise capital for those deals and give my investors distribution every month or every quarter, and then obviously they can double and triple their money in 2 to 3 to 5 years. Yeah. That's what you will see on the syndication space. As I buy retail properties, because they're so vast and so large, I will syndicate those. If people want to invest with me on a more joint venture, is what we call it, on a smaller scale where it's 2 or 3 partners, they can front the capital. We can do smaller multifamily deals here in San Diego, and they can get that equity ownership, but I will find the deal and I will manage the deal.
Right.
That's how that looks like if people want to invest with me.
That's what's up.
Nice, man.
Because I'm assuming that, like, sorry, there's something in my eye. Bro. I'm assuming that that's a good way to like scale even quicker.
It is. Yeah.
But then you're still finding the deals because you have your process of what's a good deal.
That's like what
right?
Grant Cardone does, right?
Yeah, he is more of a syndicator.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he has obviously a lot of stuff that he owns.
Right.
Especially when he started out, he did sales. He bought most of his properties between here and La Jolla and San Diego.
Yeah, exactly.
As you know, and then he eventually scaled and was doing a lot of syndications and funds.
Yeah.
So it is similar to that. But mine is hybrid, right? Like I don't I know what you mean. Some people's business is solely built on syndications, but my business, that's my property, is hybrid.
Yeah.
We're a hybrid machine. We'll do some syndications, we'll do some JVs, and I'm also doing deals where I fund it completely on my own capital. I'm doing all three. I'm shooting my gun all the directions because I'm not leaving no stone unturned.
Let me ask you this real quick. Someone wants to get into real estate, right? Multifamily, single family, wherever they're at right now. How much money should somebody have at least in order to start getting into real estate today in the San Diego market?
Ooh, I mean, you could make it work. There's
like that. You can make it work.
Yeah.
There's the FHA loan. They also just passed, which is 3.5% down. They also just passed, which started this month, the 5% down for multifamily. So
I heard about that.
if you really think about that, $1 million property, I mean, you could get into something in San Diego with 35 to 40 grand. But the thing is, obviously, you have to have the financial backing. So your credit score and your debts, it's your DTI.
Debt to income,
Your debt to income has to be intact in a right place.
like 30%.
Don't quote me on it because I'm
Okay,
not a loan officer.
Yeah.
I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but you can obviously look it up. But I would say you do need to. I don't know the credit score threshold, and I don't know the debt to income threshold and all of that, but you do need to have certain metrics that you need to meet.
Right.
But in general, you can get in about 35 to 40 grand just about if you wanted to get your first property here in San Diego.
What should somebody be wary of, like, to not fall into any traps or hurt themselves along the way?
What you mean?
Like setting up for their best success, like
To get approved?
not to
Or
get approved,
when you in the
like,
deal?
What to look out for? You know what I mean? Like what to stay away from this type of property, or make sure like the foundation is good, or whatever.
I mean, I typically stay away from stuff that has foundation issues and plumbing, but it depends. Because, right, like, if you found a property in La Jolla and it was cheap as fuck, excuse me from cursing,
No, you curse, man. Curse up a storm.
and it was mad cheap, but it only had foundation issues or plumbing issues, if you have the budget to front that,
Get them fixed.
you could get something like $1 million cheaper than what it normally would be. Would you not do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, think about it, right? Like, think
What it costs $1
think
million
about
to
if
fix.
think about if you could get $1 million discount. If we're just I'm just throwing this out of my ass. If you can get $1 million or a huge price reduction on a property in an A+ location in San Diego or a B+ location, even if it was like North Park or somewhere on Kissington or whatever
Right.
else it may be, University Heights. If you could take a huge discount on it and you only had to spend 20 to 40 grand
get
to
something
fix
fixed.
things that were major things, but it scared a lot of people away, would you not do it?
Yeah, you would.
Exactly.
It's all about running the numbers, right? To seeing what the ARV
And people
is.
naturally are lazy, and people naturally don't want to do work.
Right.
And so if they see something that they have to, a lot of people, even investors, a lot of them don't want to do the hard work.
Have you had deals that you went into and that ended up going bad because of something that you didn't realize? Or
I've never had a bad deal.
that's great.
Thank God for
Yeah.
that. That I have, everything that I've ever done has cash flowed and done well,
Yeah,
including my syndications. All my investors are happy.
that's great.
So I thank God for that.
Do you think that you have a unique approach to how you underwrite a deal or analyze a deal? Are there any?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say I'm like no spreadsheet beast or
Right.
nothing like that. There's some people that are way more savvy. I think I'm okay.
God's on your side.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
That's what's up. Do you know Leon?
Leon who?
I can't think of his. I'll after the show I'll look up on what his last name is. Another real estate dude. I'll look it up.
Okay, good.
Yeah. He's a spreadsheet fanatic.
Okay.
He's a numbers guy.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. He likes to geek out on that stuff. Shit, man. Want to read your book right now, dude.
I know, right?
Man, you about to hit the real estate hard, bro. You gotta hit the content hard too, bro.
I will.
Come on, man. You gotta get that going.
Let us know if you need help with
Yeah,
that. You know what I'm saying? Of
you
course.
need help
Got
with
you.
that.
Yeah.
You definitely get
and him and I are both, I've been in real estate in the past, made some mistakes, unfortunately got out of the game, but looking to get back in obviously as soon as possible. But when we do, multifamily is kind of on the top of the list. So I definitely want to learn more about. So you said you have a meetup? Is it like a physical meetup?
Yes. So, in the sake of going all assault and conserving time, I ran that meetup for 2.5 years, and I just passed it down.
Okay.
Because I had 9 paid sponsors. We had a great venue at the new hotel that they built not too long ago in Point Loma called the Monterey. The drinks were included. We had a great turnout. we probably had between 50, depending on the topic, we would change topics, 50 to 100 people each meet up. We were doing it every other month. And so after doing that for 2.5 years or some change, I decided to finally pass that buck to one of my good friends now, but the meetup is called Opportunity Knocks.
Okay.
And it takes a lot of work to coordinate and do that, to host events and plan that. And so I'm like, give somebody else a chance to pass the torch, frees up a lot of time, and now I can spend that time and to put that more into real estate and doing more deals.
Yeah.
Oh man, it sounds like you're on a real estate rampage right now.
I am.
Yeah.
Well, plug your podcast and
social media,
and social
where
media,
people
and
can
anything
find
else that
you.
you want. People,
Yeah, all the books, all my speaking inquiries. If you want to book me for that too, speaking engagements is provethemwrongthebook.com, provethemwrongthebook.com. That'll have. I've done this before. It'll have my bios, my book speaking sheets, any photos or logos you need with the business, the book, myself. It's all on there. Any inquiries, all my social media stuff. My social is at DR Multifamily, so Dr. Multifamily, DR Multifamily. Just think Dr. Dre. It's easy to remember. I'm on that for every platform. So if you just type it in, it'll come right up. I'm Dre Evans. If you type that in Google, it'll come up.
All right.
And that's it, man.
Oh yeah, man.
Appreciate it,
y'all.
man.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming by,
Yeah.
gracing us with your story,
Gotta do it again.
inspiration, and this has been another episode of the Get Louder Podcast. And we out.